person you see here with funky fresh Vans and a blue t-shirt is Freshline Freshwater. She had a long day and is now returning to her dorm to write down her thoughts. She opened the door, pulled her seat back, got a pen and paper, and got to writing. She wrote, "Dear Diary, why does everyone hate me? I work really hard to support all life on this planet, but I'm frequently met with so many obstacles. Maybe things will change. Love, Freshline." What she didn't know was there was a silent killer among her. Her disappearance sent the world into a frenzy.
Did you hear? Freshline Freshwater is gone. What are we gonna do?
Oh my gosh, Freshline's water is gone.
Freshline Freshwater is missing.
Hey guys, so in the previous clip, you witnessed one of the craziest stories of 2050. Freshline Freshwater got kidnapped. And now we see that half of the world's population is without fresh water. So I set out an investigation to find out how this happened, why it happened, and how we can fix it. Well, hopefully.
The EPA sent out their best scientists to give us information on who the culprits may be.
Hey, I'm Tiffany Margine, and I am the leading expert of quoting other experts, and I'm here to explain some things that just make fresh water not so fresh anymore. It is no longer a secret. Freshline Freshwater has been kidnapped. She is nowhere to be found. And now I'm here to discuss with you who I believe are the three main culprits for her disappearance. Culprit number one is of course going to be runoff, specifically agricultural runoff from big farms. The second one for me is going to be bacteria that finds its way into our waterways by unkept sewage or of course aging sewage infrastructure. And number three on the list is going to be heavy metal toxins such as lead, mercury, cadmium, chromium, nickel that finds its way into our waterways from aging pipes or of course industrial pollution. Now, I love to stay here and continue this discussion, but I am indeed a waged worker, and according to my clock, it is time for me to clock out, but I will be back soon to engage you guys.
After watching the video, I made a couple phone calls to see if I could score some interviews. Hey, is this Miss Quali?
Yes, it is. How may I help you?
Hey, I'm a journalist and I'm investigating the disappearance of Freshline Freshwater, and I would love to chat with anyone from your colony if that's a possibility.
Yes. Hey, baby, you're going to be on TV.
So if you could send me your Hey, is this Lane Argon, the agent for the heavy metal models that works at Periodica Agency?
Yes, this is she. Who is calling?
I am a journalist, and I was wondering if Portobello Blossoms would be open for an interview. I have a couple questions about Freshline Freshwater.
I'll have to ask her and get back to you. May I have your name?
Yes, it's Fatoumata Toure.
Okay, Miss Tomato. We'll get back to you as soon as possible.
Thank you. Hey, is this Bean Brussels that represents the old farmers of the Americas?
Yes, sir. This is that.
Good to know. I'm a journalist filming a documentary on Freshline Freshwater and was wondering if your client, farmer Fazmeen Carrots, would be willing to offer some details about their relationship.
Good golly, why, yes. My client is looking to clear up some misconceptions about him and his farm over yonder. And would love an opportunity like this.
That's fantastic. So do you think you can email me some contact info so we can get it off the ground?
No problem.
Thank you so much. My first interview was to be conducted at a farm down south.
So, how about we start with an introduction about who you are and what you do. Howdy y'all, my name is Fazmeen Carrots and I am a farmer. Yes sir, I am. I have a huge plot of land that you see over yonder and I am ready to spill the beans. So, what is your relationship with Freshline Freshwater? And my relation to that little lady Freshline is something special. She helps me feed my cattle, water my crops, and I hope we find her soon now because I can't do my next growing season without her. I heard that you cause freshwater to be unsafe to drink. Any elaborations on how? Now that depends. Is this little here documentary going to the EPA? I'm just messing with you, honey. I'm currently under immunity anyway. But anyway, y'all, this is how it goes. Agriculture consumes about 70% of Earth's fresh water supply, you see. And when I'm growing my hair crops, I need to use fertilizers to keep them strong and to keep them healthy. And I need to use some pesticides to make sure them vermin don't come attacking my money, you hear? So, because we use so much fertilizer, so much pesticides, we cause these things called algae blooms. And baby, when I tell you, when that algae be getting up in that water supply, be sucking up all the oxygen, meaning that the aquatic life there that needs oxygen to survive will no longer be able to use it. And as a result, we're gonna cause these things called dead zones, which means aquatic life like plants, fish, crabs, they will no longer be there no more. And that means we have a dead zone, and that is a drastic effect on the ecosystem. Now also, because you know I'm handling cattle, I'm handling livestock, I'm handling some animals, there is going to be some poop. So when a storm hit, baby, and it washes all that poop into the stream and all that stuff, baby, you can expect your stomach to be doing some backflips from all them infections. You hear? It's something serious. It's something serious. How does this affect people like me or just the average person? This affects people because if all them fish die and that's the only food your family got access to, what you gonna do? We live about near the middle of nowhere, so it'll be hard just to go to the grocery store when the nearest one is across county lines. Especially if you live in a rural community like us where we don't have enough doctors, enough funding, enough resources to solve all these here issues we have. So when we do get sick, oh baby, it's bad news. Because of how the water cycle is built, we can also expect that this issue right here just won't stay here in this community, you know what I mean? So this means if this water gets into the community water table that feeds into the community wells, then we in big trouble because it's gonna take a minute to get that all patched up when the community only has a couple pennies, nickel, and dimes to their names. You know what I'm saying? It's ridiculous.
After leaving the farm from down south, I went and caught up with Miss Equal Eye.
So, how about we start with an introduction about who you are and what you do. Hello, my name is Escherichia coli, but I go by E. coli for short. I am a gram-negative rod-shaped bacterium that is known to have your stomach jumping. I was discovered in 1885 and labeled a pathogen in 1982. I am found in the lower intestines of warm-blooded organisms, including humans. Some strains of me aren't harmful, but the strains that are, baby, we make sure you know. So, what is your relationship with Freshline Freshwater? So, my relationship to her is one with a lot of familiarity. Basically, wherever there's poop, fresh water, and a storm, you can definitely expect to find me there. I heard you cause fresh water unsafe to drink. Any elaborations on how? I cause fresh water to be unsafe to drink because if a strain of me that produces the Shiga toxin finds its way into the water source, let's just say you and your bathroom are going to become very close friends. I cause diarrhea, nausea, and possibly jaundice. How does this affect people like me that are minorities or just the average person? Usually you find minority areas with subpar water treatment systems, septic tanks that aren't well kept, and poor sanitation infrastructure due to decades of racism and redlining. So if sewage isn't properly cleaned and monitored, you can find me in wells, rivers, and waters that are used commercially, industrially, and residentially. Aging and easily overwhelmed sewage infrastructure releases about 850 gallons of untreated sewage into the environment. Considering that most disenfranchised communities have aging sewage infrastructure, E. coli contaminated water is very common. I would know, I'm there. This can lead to several gastrointestinal illnesses, which include an infection that can cause a complication referred to as hemolytic uremic syndrome. In this syndrome, red blood cells are destroyed and kidneys fail. It affects the elderly and children aged 5 and under.
After my interview with Miss Equal Eye, I met up with the heavy metal sensation.
So, how about we start with an introduction about who you are and what you do. Hello, darling. Sorry I look a bit tarnished, but my name is Portobello Blossoms, or I'm more commonly known as PB or Lead. I weigh about 207.2 atomic mass units, and in my metallic state, I am relatively resistant to corrosion. I am very ductile, malleable, and I have been used by people for about 5,000 years or so. So, what is your relationship with Freshline Freshwater? So my relationship with Freshline has kind of gotten a little bit more intense in terms of how far I've been around. So because of the increase of industrialization and all of that, I found that my use has increased from about 10 tons per year to now 1 million tons per year. So I would say we've become very well acquainted with each other in about a short amount of time. I heard that she caused fresh water to be unsafe to drink. Any elaborations on how? So I am a metal that does not dissolve when I get into water. So baby, once I'm in there, I'm there and I won't be leaving. And because of that, I tend to stay and I bioaccumulate and biomagnify, which means that because I stay in water for so long, I collect faster in an animal, organism, or human compared to the amount of time it takes for them to get rid of me. That then causes me to biomagnify, which means if you're at the top of the food chain, the more of me you have in your body and the quicker your demise. How does this affect people like me that are minorities or just the average person? So, me or other heavy metals that are like me cause a lot of issues with how your body functions. I can harm how your body produces your red blood cells, and I can also replace the calcium in your body, which is bad news for your bones and how neurotransmitters in your brain get signals to the rest of your body. As far as my effects on minorities, well, it's kind of brutish, but it isn't completely my fault. So back in the day, the common practice of redlining really intensified my harm to a certain group of people, particularly minorities. So, in the 1960s, banks redlined properties / neighborhoods that were owned by people who were minorities, and they gave it a low score when it came to giving out bank loans. So because of that, people weren't given loans if they lived in these neighborhoods. As a result of that, we found redlining disproportionately affecting Black and minority neighborhoods. This led to them being denied several services from local and federal government agencies. One of the services you can see that were clearly skimped on in these neighborhoods is infrastructure. A lot of these places have old pipes that are falling apart and causing heavy metal and toxins like myself to find a way into the water that comes to their homes, schools, and businesses. For examples, I made my grand debut in Flint when they decided to change the water supply to the Flint River without testing the water or the state of the pipes that were transferring that water. So when the Flint got its water into the lead pipes, which had already run its course, you found that I was getting into the water supply because of how corrosive that water was. As a result, it was a massive public health crisis that took place. And because of how long I stay in the environment and in bodies, it'll be hard to get rid of me. And now there's a population which was already disadvantaged in so many ways that also has to deal with chronic health problems that will affect their past, present, and future. Honestly, if you're asking me, it's very, very sad.
After a couple of days, an EPA expert came out with a second video about ways we can control these hazards from entering our waterways.
Hey, I'm Tiffany Marget, and I'm clocked in, back, and ready to talk with you guys about some solutions that could help us with these three culprits that are affecting our freshwater ways that agricultural operations can reduce nutrient pollutions. These include nutrient management, which means applying fertilizers in the proper amount at the right time of year, and with the right method can significantly reduce the potential for pollution. Cover crops, which means planting certain grasses, grains, or clovers can help keep nutrients out of the water by recycling excess nitrogen and reducing soil erosion. Buffers. Planting trees, shrubs, and grass around fields, especially those that border bodies of water, can help by absorbing or filtering out nutrients before they reach that body of water. Conservation tillage. Reducing how often fields are tilled reduces erosion and soil compaction, builds soil organic matter, and reduces runoff. Managing livestock waste. Keeping animals and their waste out of streams, rivers, and lakes keeps nitrogen and phosphorus out of the water, restores stream banks. Drainage water management. Reducing nutrient loadings that drain from agricultural fields helps prevent degradation of the water in local streams and lakes. For bacteria, pick up after your pets when they are done using the bathroom outdoors. Also, voice your concerns about your sewer infrastructure to city officials so some change can take place. If you have a home that still uses a septic tank, make sure to get it checked frequently to make sure that it's still functioning properly, and also replace it when you can. If you're going to be raising livestock or cattle, keep them as far as you can from water sources. In terms of heavy metals, it gets a bit bit more complicated. But make sure your city officials are effectively held accountable and how frequently they check your pipes. Also, ask your state officials to implement remediation projects that help water that is already contaminated. So projects that include chemical precipitations, ion exchange absorption, membrane filtration, reverse osmosis, solvent extraction, and electrochemical treatment. Be very mindful of when your city wants to change zoning practices to allow for a factory to set up in your town. Attend the meetings so you can make sure that rules are being followed and you can voice your concerns. Also, vote for people who want to increase regulations when it comes to industrial waste.
Water, the most abundant resource that can quickly become scarce through human negligence. With 0.5% of fresh water available to us, it is important that we are mindful in the way we treat it and manage it. Poorly managed fresh water has led to massive scales of public health crises that not only affects everyone and everything that needs water, but also disproportionately affects minorities, people in the lower social class, and the ecosystem. It's never too late to find the solution. Only inaction will lead us to a demise and where we too lose our refreshing fresh water.